Pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United
United
States of
States of America and to the
the
republic
Republic,
for which it
which
stands,
it stands, one nation, under
under
God,
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
justice for all. That's so smooth.
Okay, please call the roll.
Okay. Director Retterman,
Here,
Director Cicada. Director Cicada,
she's muted.
Okay, how about now? Can you hear me?
yes.
Okay, I'm here.
Okay. Director Underhill,
Here,
Director Thomas,
I'm here.
Director Davidson.
Here. Item number 2, public comment. At this time, members of the public may address the board on any non-agendized item. The public is encouraged to work through staff to place items on the agenda for board consideration. No action can be taken on matters not listed on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Is there any public comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Following items are expected to be routine, non-controversial. They'll be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member may request that an item be removed for later discussion. 3A, approval of minutes of the board meeting January 13th. 3B, review of board directors' monthly timesheets for January 2020. 3C, ratified claim summary 587, secretarial fund. 3D, report on monthly investment transactions for January 21. Is there a motion?
I move for approval.
I'd like to
second.
pull 3C.
Oh,
Okay, you want to pull 3B? Who said that?
This is Scott. I'd like to pull 3C.
Which C is in cat, dog?
Yes.
Charlie.
Okay, we're going to pull item 3. Can I get a motion for 3A, 3B, and 3D?
so moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Thomas. Can I get a second? Director
Second,
Underhill?
yeah,
Okay,
second,
okay, please call the roll.
Okay. Director Retterman,
Yes.
Director Cicada,
Yes.
Director Underhill,
yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
President Davidson.
Yes. Okay, what's up with 3C, Scott?
Okay, on 3C, page 5, the bottom of page 5, it's the CalPERS charges. I just kind of want to go through them. This is something that we're going to be talking about, the cost of these benefits, and just want to get an idea of what we're looking at here. Going through the CalPERS, the first 2 are called retirement, and then there's deferred comp. And then on the next page, there's another 10 or so. And so Rebecca Callan, would you be the one answering questions on what, or knowing what each one of those are referencing, and for what benefit we're paying for here, and how often do we pay for this benefit? How often does this charge come up?
Yeah, these are paid every month. And they are a combination between retirees who are actually submitting for reimbursement of medical costs. So we have kind of a grandfathered group of retirees that have that benefit, as well as retirees that don't get reimbursement for medical expenses, but we do pay for their medical insurance. And then we also have just our regular deferred compensation allocations that go to CalPERS, AIG, and I forget what the third one is, but those are every month.
Okay, I'm gonna just ask some questions about a specific line item. The very first one called CalPERS retirement, and I'm just gonna pick out the big ones, the high dollar ones. It's $32,000. You said it's a monthly charge. What is that for?
So technically, if you take the 32,000 plus the 12 right below it. So remember, when you see multiple lines for the same vendor, especially when it's if you ever see it's the same check, That's because we split between water and sewer. So the combined total is like 44,500 and whatever dollars. That has to do with our reimbursement payments associated with retirees.
Okay, Thank you.
Actually, sorry, those are going to CalPERS themselves. So that would be the CalPERS health insurance. Yeah,
that's the premium,
that's the premiums that we're
1
paying.
month premium for insurance, for health insurance for retired employees.
So
Rebecca?
CalPERS retirement, those two, that is actually the CalPERS retirement cost. So the actual the pension costs associated with the monthly or the monthly payroll associated with that. The CalPERS health insurance, which is down below, and those are 85 and 31. Those are the health
Okay.
insurance costs.
Okay, that was that's one I was going to next. And then the last one would be the below that, the 31 and the 11. And I understand it's the same cost split between departments, wastewater and water. But those are for, so the on page 6, the top two is the health premium for retired employees, and then down below the 31,000 and the 11,000 is for existing employees. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you. Move for
Anybody else have
acceptance.
any questions regarding 3C?
I'm good.
Like to move for
Get a
acceptance.
motion for acceptance?
3C, yes.
We have a
I'll
motion
second.
and a second. Any public comment? Please call the roll.
Director Retterman,
Yes.
Director Cicada,
Yes.
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
President Davidson.
Yes. Okay, we'll move on to new business discussion action regarding awarding and authorizing a construction contract for the Jenny Lind Water Treatment Plant Filters 345 Rehabilitation CIP. Damon?
Good afternoon, President Davidson, directors. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, this project is to rehabilitate 3 of the filters at the Jenny Lind Water Treatment Plant. $660,000 was allocated in this fiscal year's CIP. The bid opening date for the project was February 2nd, 2021, and ERS Industrial was the lone responsive bidder with a bid of $648,740. And I apologize for the typo in the staff report there. ERS recently rehabbed both filters at the Hunter's Water Treatment Plant, and the job was completed on budget, on time, and without issue. So staff's recommendation is to accept ERS's bid and authorize the GM to enter into an agreement with ERS for the work.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Anything from the board?
Damon, this is Director Thomas. We had a significant amount of work done at Jenny Lind. I think it was called the tertiary water treatment. Got, I don't know, $3 million or something for that. These filters were not refurbished when that work was done?
Correct. So that is a pre-filter. It's almost like an enhancement to the actual filtration process.
Okay.
So there's 6 actual direct, we call them hydroflock filters. There are 6 at the facility. 2 of them were rehabilitated in 06-07. And then the 6th was actually installed in 08-09. So 3 of the filters have never been rehabilitated. So this work will rehab those 3. And then the pre-treatment filter was just recently completed. The construction was recently completed, and the commissioning of that continues.
Okay, it's kind of off the subject on this, but when you say that the commissioning of that system continues, 6 months ago you were telling me that there was problems with that. Is that getting any closer to resolution?
It is. So one of the unique constraints associated with that filter is it really performs well with high turbidity. And as you see, we haven't had a heck of a lot of rain or a heck of a lot of storms. But the storm in January did create enough turbidity in the raw water supply so that we could turn the filter on and run it. And we saw pretty significant turbidity removal in the front end of the facility. And we're pulling samples now. We pulled samples through the storm as well to analyze for total organic carbon removal. So because our hope is not only are we removing simply turbidity in the water, but we're also removing organics and potentially minerals as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Director Thomas, if in case you haven't been to the Jenny Lind facility, and Damon, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but the filters we're talking about rehabbing here, it's the same technology that we use in the copper water treatment plant, those same filters that I'm sure you've seen there. So
Yeah.
those are
Correct.
the types of filters that we're talking about rehabbing, and we just did them up at Hunter's too, the same technology there as well.
Yep.
Okay, so they're larger than an oil filter then.
Yeah.
Slightly larger than an oil filter, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, can I get a motion regarding this item?
Well, I just have one question, please.
Go ahead.
ERS did another job for us, and you said that they were ahead of time and below cost. Will they be able to do the same thing on this job? I know it'll be below cost because it's only $648 and we budgeted $660, but I was looking for a finish date.
That's our goal. The finish date as of right now is June 15th, and they should be able to meet that goal without issue. ERS is pretty adept at filter rehabs. They do a lot of these throughout the state. So they have it down to a pretty effective and efficient operation.
Okay, well, they sound like a very good, trustworthy business, so that group, so that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we were really happy with them at the Hunters facility.
Damon, why do you think we only got one response from, one contractor's response from our request?
Well, that's an interesting question, and Jesse and I have talked about that. I believe it's because the filters, I think in part, it's because the filters are so proprietary that the filter screens that are on the absorption side of the unit, so one side is what they call clarification and the other side is filtration. The filter screens have to be manufactured, so ERS can do that work. And I think a lot of contractors that are, potential candidates for work like this don't necessarily have the tools or the understanding of how to work with these unique filters. They're almost what you call a package plant. And we actually solicited bids from the manufacturer, both occasions, and the manufacturer really feels like they can't do it for as cheap a cost as what they saw ERS do it for in other locations. So oftentimes when they see a bid like this open up and they understand that other folks may be looking to bid it also, namely ERS, they just don't even bid.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Anything else from the board? Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to award and authorize the construction contract for the Jenny Lind water treatment item
And I'll
40.
second,
Thank you, Cindy.
and I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any public comment regarding this item? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Cicada,
Yes.
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes,
President Davidson.
Yes. We'll move on to 4B, discussion action regarding authorization to issue refunding bonds for Fly-In Acres and Dolly Cassidy, approval related to legal documents and resolutions. Rebecca.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. This is just, if you recall at the last board meeting, we had brought this forward and then mentioned that we would be bringing it forward today for the next step, and specifically the authorization to actually issue the refunding bonds and approval of the related legal documents and resolutions. So this is kind of the last formal step that we need to take in order to move forward with the actual refunding itself. We updated the staff report with a little more information with up-to-date figures, and then went through the various information associated with what exactly we're doing. If you recall, the point of doing this is actually to save the property owners in Delee Cassidy and Flyand Acres money on their tax bills. There isn't necessarily a cost benefit to the district, but given that we are the stewards of these assessment districts, it's in the best interests of the property owners to do this. So we're always trying to be mindful of ways that we can save money, whether it be for the district or it be for property owners or ratepayers in our area. So
Hey, Rebecca,
yeah,
this is Scott. We went through this quite a bit in our last meeting. And I was thinking this is something that might even could have been on the consent agenda, because it's just the next step of the same process, unless there's something different. And I didn't see anything.
Yeah, so specifically it can't go on the consent because each one of the resolutions that are listed at the bottom of the staff report have to be individually approved by the board. So if that wasn't the case, then definitely we would have just stuck it on consent, because we've kind of talked about it ad nauseum between the finance committee and the last board meeting. So at this point, we're asking for the board to approve the 3 resolutions. You have to do them individually in order to make this all legal and binding. We've put them in the order that they need to be approved, and that's what we're asking for. And if you have any other questions regarding this, we also have UFI on the phone, as well as bond counsel. And
Okay, hold on, everybody. What are the resolution numbers in order?
11, 12, and 13.
Okay. So Scott, I'm assuming that you were going to make a motion.
Yes, I was. I was going to first say, unless there's, and Cindy, were you at our may not have been at our last meeting,
was.
but I think
No, I
you.
was.
Oh, okay. I know you missed one recently, but unless someone has a question about this, any additional questions, I was going to say, yeah, let's just move forward.
After we get a motion.
Okay, I do have one question, and how do we notify the property owner that that's what's going to happen?
So what we're going to do is we were going to wait till this meeting was completed, and then I'm going to be working with Jessica Self, our external affairs manager, to work up some outreach materials and press releases to go out so that that everybody knows that this is happening. How this will basically look is it's not going to do anything for this current tax bill, but it'll be on their following tax bill, and they will just see a lower tax bill.
Okay,
I'd
ready
like to
for
make
motion?
I'd like to make a motion for adopting Resolution 2021-11, declaring intention to re-levy assessment.
Okay,
and
we have a
issue-
motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a
Cicada.
motion and a second. Is there any public comment? Please call the roll.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Cicada,
Yes.
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
President Underhill. I'm sorry, President Peterson.
Close enough. Okay, motion carries. Now we're going to be looking at 2021-12. Can I get a motion for acceptance?
I'll make a motion to accept resolution 2021-12.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any public comment? Please call the roll.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Cicada,
Yes.
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
President Davidson.
Yes. Okay, now we'll move on to 2021-13. Can I get a motion for acceptance?
I'll make a motion to accept resolution 2021-13.
Thank
Second,
you. And a second. Any public comment? Please call the roll.
Director Radaman,
Yes.
Director Cicada,
Yes.
Director Underhill,
yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
President Davidson.
Yes. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item 5A, update on watershed sanitary surveys. Brad.
Yeah, thank you, President Davidson. Good afternoon, board. This item is to talk about an update to the watershed sanitary surveys. This is an EPA federal requirement. These plans are not to be submitted and certified by the EPA, but rather need to be completed and made available upon request, updated once every 5 years. So this year we are getting to the 5-year update of the watershed sanitary surveys. The idea of these plans is to investigate watershed water quality risks, to look at things like potential use, treatment, risks and vulnerabilities in the watershed that could impact our ability to treat and rely and use water supplies. We are involved in 2 watershed sanitary surveys at CCWD, the Upper McCollumney and the Stanislaus-Calaveras combined plan. Talking about the Upper McCollumney, we coordinate on that update with CPUD. And of course, at CCWD, we focus on our West Point facilities, looking at things like Middle, North Fork, even to a degree, South Fork risks that it could impact our ability, again, to treat and use McCollumney watershed supplies. We rely on Peterson Brustad as a consultant to develop these plans. They have helped us put together our past update of the watershed sanitary surveys for the Upper McCollumney. So we trust and are able to move quickly with them on trying to get this together to meet the pending, I believe it's July deadline coming up, June or July of this year, sorry. From there, we use the Middle Fork and North Fork McCollumney data regarding treatment, analysis of pumping, how we use our facilities to move the water around. Again, getting an assessment of what risks are there in the watershed that could impact how we utilize and rely on the water. It's worth noting that for the McCollumney, East Bay Mud leads the task on doing the lower McCollumney plan, which is essentially everything party and downstream of that. For the Calaveras and Stanislaus, which is the other watershed sanitary survey that we put together, Stockton East Water District is who essentially leads that plan and has led in the past for these updates. They have the most cost that they bear for this plan, and they do most of the coordination to pull the coordinated group together, which includes us, SSJID, others that rely on the Stanislaus and Calaveras rivers, pull them all together to put this watershed sanitary survey together and to pull the update. Attachment A lists out who those parties are for reference. We have gone through the initial meetings already, and the cost sharing percents that are shown in attachment A are based on water use of these 2 rivers. So obviously we do use from both the Calaveras and Stanislaus, but relative to Stockton East or SSJID or others, we are a relatively small user. And so you can see the percentages broken down there for who's participating in this plan update. We're going to look at the Stanislaus facilities from our perspective at Ebbets Pass, Copper Cove area, and this will also include New Hogan, Jenny Lind facilities owing to being on the Calaveras River watershed. Again, looking at the same sort of things, water quality risks, vulnerabilities, what in the watershed could impact us going forward and prevent or rather adversely impact our ability to rely and use these water supplies. And it will include tributaries such as San Antonio Creek in order to get a complete picture. And so as you can imagine, the Stanislaus Calaveras is a much larger effort versus the Upper McCollumney one that we do. Now, the draft agreement with Stockton East Water District for cost sharing to put this plan together is provided in attachment B for the board's reference. The group is planning to use WQTS as a consultant who did the last plan update. They have a pretty good sense of what's needed for these plans and how they pull together the information from the coordinated group here. And this is just to point out that the cost that we will bear at CCWD is well within the GM's execution limit. And so we're not necessarily looking for a board resolution to approve, but rather we wanted to use this opportunity to provide notice that this draft agreement is in place. We may plan to execute it. And provide a notice of update of where we're at with the watershed sanitary surveys. And more importantly, Looking at the cost of these two plans together versus what we budgeted in this fiscal year, we are actually 20K below what we had originally budgeted. So it's a good opportunity to illustrate a cost savings on these plan updates. So with that, I will take any questions or thoughts. Nothing to approve here, just more of informational item.
Brad, I just kind of remember this kind of discussion before, not too long ago. Did we have, some kind of introduction or something to this?
I don't know that we did any formal introduction, at least since I've been at the district for the watershed sanitary surveys. This would have come up with my predecessor, Peter, probably back in 2015 or 16. But I don't recall anything recently to identify these items.
Well, maybe it was back in Peter's days. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions of Brad by the board?
Yeah, Brad, I do have a question on just curious what the cost share is on the Equality with CPUD? How we split that 14,000 is what I'm looking at.
Sure. To my knowledge, we don't actually cost share with CPUD, mainly because their portion of the plan, let's call it, is relatively minor compared to ours. The plan in and of itself is not terribly complex relative to the Stanislaus Calaveras. Really, all we're trying to gather from CPUD is their treatment plant, and the name of that plant escapes me currently, but really just looking for that treatment plant's intake data to the degree that we have any sort of concern for operations with West Point upstream sort of thing. Besides the fact that I do believe we also use SHAD's data to the extent that we do pull off the middle fork for West Point. So it's a long-winded way of saying that I don't believe we cost share, but that's owing to the fact that most of this plan is CCWD centric.
Okay, interesting. Thank you.
Okay. Anything further on that? Okay, we'll move on. 6A, report on January 2021 operations engineering. Damon.
Hello again, directors. So it's been a while since we've been able to provide you with some visuals. So we did create a field operations PowerPoint presentation for you to take a look at. Really the highlights of this last January's work efforts were, excuse me, a lot of work was related to the atmospheric river storm. There were a lot of power fails and a lot of snow, as you all know. So you'll see some highlight slides in that towards the end. But here we are once again illustrating the work that our crew down in the Rancho Calaveras service area does. They do great work. This is an example of what it looks like when a service line tap blows out of a water main. It just leaves that hole there, and oftentimes staff have to put a full circle repair clamp onto that opening and then it's what's called a tap saddle. So there will be a threaded port on the outside of that right over that hole, and then they'll reset a service lateral. So if you could advance the slides, Becca, that'd be great. This is another great one. So this is a service lateral manifold to 2 meters. What you see at the top of the screen is the boom from the Vactor truck or the GapVax truck after it has excavated the manifold. So you see there's a T with 2 service lines, both of which have repair clamps already on them, and both of which have 2 additional service lateral leaks. So you can see water spraying out on either side of the boom from the GapVax truck in 2 different areas. So the work continues to rehab, replace, and repair service laterals down in the Rancho service area. Next slide.
Damon, can I ask a question? Go
Yeah.
back to that previous slide. And
Yep.
forgive me, everybody, because I'm not used to seeing this type of picture. So those are service laterals, the flexible looking hose? Is that what
Yeah,
that is
so-
for a home?
Right. So if you look at the black line that's basically coming from the bottom of your computer screen, and then you see a brass, you'll see a brass T. So what happens is that line comes from the main, right? And then it manifolds into that T, and then that T splits off on either side. And what you'll see is our staff have pulled the meter boxes over the meter. So if you go up to the little berm there, you'll see some muddy water meters. And so staff have pulled the meter boxes. Yep, there's a lid, so they can actually get to to the service line to make the repair. And what would happen here would be you would cut the service lateral from the main and literally just replumb everything to those 2 meters, which is what our guys did.
Interesting.
Yeah, and that's a
I
lot.
haven't seen flexible hose like that before, so just
Yeah,
interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. It's called poly tubing, and that's pretty much the majority of service lines throughout all service areas are mostly poly. There's some brass, I mean, excuse me, not brass, but copper and up on the pass. But mostly.
And those are 5/8 inches or sometimes bigger, just depending?
Right. Sometimes bigger, depending. A lot of the laterals are 1 inch. So they could be lateral 1 inch manifolded to 5/8, or it could be all 1 inch. Sometimes we'll find 1.5 inches.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anything
So
else? Any board members have questions of Damon? Okay, thank you.
You
We'll
want
move
me to
on
keep
to-
Was he
going?
done? I
It's
say
your
keep
call.
going.
I can keep going.
No, he's not done. They've got more
Oh, I
pretty
thought he was
pictures
done.
to look at.
Yeah,
Slow
yeah.
down.
Keep going.
So this is from January 26th. This is in Forest Meadows. This is middle of the storm, 8-inch water main break. You can see staff excavating with the Vector truck on the picture on your left. And you can see what's called a shear break on your right. So the soil below the water main was disturbed, or it shifted. And what it did is it just literally caused a shear break for the pipe to just break perfectly. It just perfectly separated. And so if you advance to the next slide, you can see how we repair a failure like this is to put a full circle clamp on it. That's that aluminum colored repair clamp that's on your right. So you can see staff in the hole on the left, post excavation, working to get the repair clamp on, and then the repair clamp is completed on the right.
So Damon, another question.
Yeah.
When you do repairs like this, do you have it logged digitally so you'll know that this particular line has X amount of clamp repairs on it and whatnot?
We do. So we have a work order system. That's what mobile MMS does. So we can create work orders for this, for work efforts all across mains and service lines, and then it will keep those for historical reference. And it keeps any pictures or associated documents for each of those as well.
And I would imagine after you get so many repairs on a line like that, it is ultimately replaced.
Correct. So one of the things that we're working on in the ops and engineering departments is developing basically the top 10 worst, the top 10 most notorious, if you will, water mains and collection sewer lines that need to be slated for replacement. But yes, we refer to, so we can actually do a heat map in mobile MMS for service areas. And Sam in the engineering department uses GIS maps for this too, to basically illustrate hotspots associated with water and sewer line failures. So that's helpful too.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, pretty slick.
Okay. I
Damon,
would
I don't
just
want
like
to, oh, sorry, go ahead.
one more thing about this rake. As Damon was saying, it was in the middle of the storm. And can you give us some perspective of how many people were there and how long it took you to fix it?
Yes, so there was a crew of 5 and they started working approximately 5 p.m. and water was restored, everything back in order by about 10:30. So that's a pretty quick repair. It didn't involve having to cut any sections of pipe out. It was just, there were logistic issues trying to get equipment to the site because we had to bring the VACON down from the barn, and there was a heck of a lot of snow at the barn and in Arnold, as everybody remembers. So it was really, it would have been quicker were it not in the middle of a storm.
Mm-hmm. And how many customers were involved or impacted?
So really the way these repairs work is we throttle the flow of the water main down until the absolute last minute. So it was around 50 customers that were affected, but in terms of actually out of water, they weren't out of water until that full circle clamp was put on the pipe. And at that point, it's highly unlikely that anybody were to drain that 8-inch water line that fast when our folks put that full circle clamp on. So I wouldn't say people were actually out of water at all, but the water supply was cut off for about an hour.
Okay, well, considering the storm and everything, I think that's, great timing.
Yeah, whenever I hear that staff is, having to respond to an issue like this in the middle of a storm, you kind of, you're on a heightened alert beyond what you normally are for a leak repair, just because of the situation. And in light of that, our guys, I can't say enough great things about the crew. We talk about it a lot, but I mean, we have a great group out there, really professional, really effective. One thing that's worth noting is this is the first shot on the pipeline. What I'm trying to say there is, you have to listen to truly understand where the failure on the water main is, because the water may be coming out in 20 feet away. And so our guys were able to actually just pinpoint where the failure was and cut the asphalt and excavate literally right on top of the leak. And that is an art in and of itself. So, they just do great work.
Well, all of the board is extremely appreciative, and of course, DeForest Meadows, that was wonderful.
Yeah, and the neighbors were great too.
And I just wanted to echo that for the board, that, this was the heaviest part of the storm. I can't remember if it was that Tuesday or Wednesday, but it was an absolute downpour. The snow line hadn't dropped below Forest Meadows yet, but the temperatures were probably in the 30s or low 40s, and it was absolutely pouring. And so the fact that the way that they responded and got this work done would have been impressive even in dry conditions. The fact that they were able to pull that off at night in the conditions that they were in is just remarkable.
Yep. All
Well,
right.
Thank you again, Damon.
And I'll relay that for sure to the group.
Mhm.
Here you can see our supervising mechanic taking a look at the VACON. So we demoed some newer Vactor trucks. We demoed one from Gap Vacs, one from Gap VACON. These are manufacturers, and then one from Vactor. All really impressive vehicles. If you could advance the slide, please, Becca. These pictures are treats for y'all. This first picture is the influent filter basket at the Arnold wastewater facility, just to kind of give you an idea of what an influent filter screen looks like at a wastewater facility when it needs to be cleaned.
Mm-hmm.
And then the picture on the right is a pump out of the equalization basin at the Vallecito wastewater treatment facility being replaced.
Oh.
And so here's a picture of inflow and infiltration into Pond 4, or actually out of Pond 4 into Pond 6 at the Copper Cove wastewater treatment plant. And the blue line is flow from Pond 4 to Pond 6. So you can see it goes from dips and dives between 300 and 250 gallons a minute all the way up to 890 gallons a minute in the storm. So a lot of flow into the wastewater facility. Next slide. And here again, here is the picture on your left of the Vallecito MBR facility, and the red are flow rates. So you can see that flow rate increasing. This is over a 4-hour period. And then the picture on the right, it's kind of hard to see, but all the red writing are comm fails due to communication outages as a result of the power failures and snow load. And then you can see tank levels. So operators prior to a storm like the one we recently experienced will up the volume and all the tank levels throughout the service area so that we can last longer on the volume within the tank without having to pump. And so that really saved us in this last storm as a result of all these comm fills. And so here we are prepping the side-by-side Ranger with a fuel tank in the back in order to fill our sawmill pump station site at the sawmill tank site. And this is above the White Pines barn. And then if you advance the slide, This is the road into the White Pines area down Blagan, and you can see a plow has knocked off a manhole lid in the work effort. So we had staff, in the midst of all of this, working to get to sites, plowing, working to restore manhole lids, working to restore comm and fuel generators throughout the storm. Here is that sawmill pump station and tank site. So you can see the Ranger side by side on the right. And it has made its way up to the site so it can refuel the generator at the site. And this is Blagan. And with that, I'll take any additional questions if you have any.
Damon, I just wanted to point out that that tank is what, 3/4 of a mile off of Blagan Road or something like that?
It's about 2 miles up.
Oh, is it
Yeah,
2 miles?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, through SPI property. It's a dirt road, and it was quite an adventure for staff to get up there to be able to fuel that generator. I got to tell you, it was a great effort. It was a wild ride for them.
Yeah, because before they used to have to snowshoe it up there, right?
Right, and snowshoeing is only going to be able to get a person up there with a few tools, and when you need to fuel, you have to be able to get there, and that side by side proved very helpful with the fuel tank on the back to be able to get some fuel up there.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay.
Thank you,
Anything
everybody. I
else,
appreciate
Damon?
your time.
Thanks, Damon.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll move on then to General Manager's report. Michael?
Okay. Can y'all hear me? We're good. I got several issues here. One is I just want to acknowledge staff have been working in really difficult conditions for almost a year now. We're almost up to a year of having to juggle working remotely part-time or how, changed operating conditions as a result of the pandemic. And I think it's important sometimes to just reflect on the fact that it creates a lot of additional stress for staff, and I think it over time affects morale as well. And so I just want to acknowledge that and reassure the board that we're taking proactive steps to try to let staff know how much we value them and how appreciated they are. And so there's some work on that front that we're going to be rolling out, because it's not just COVID. It's just been a difficult year, I think, for everybody in general. So just operating at a higher stress level for everybody. And so having said that, I think it's a testament to the skill and professionalism of all of our staff, how much work we've gotten done in that period of time. And frankly, I'm really optimistic about where we're at and where we're going, despite all those challenges. So just, but making sure that we're lifting people up as we go along and not letting the challenging conditions that we're in take too much of a toll on everybody. Along those lines, we had, I think the strategic plan is a really good way to demonstrate to staff and to the public, what the district's values are, including how much we value the safety and health and well-being of our workforce. And that will be, I think, important. And I know the board has emphasized the importance of making sure that's reflected in the strategic planning document. The management team has put a lot of work into that and working with our consultants based on the input that we got from the board at the last meeting. And so we're going to be pushing out some documents in the agenda packet for the special meeting for the next board workshop next Friday. We're going to try to get that out this Friday. So the board has a week to take a look at the documents and reflect on what we're sending you before in advance of the meeting. And just I think we remain really excited about that process and the product that's going to come out of it. Two questions I have for the board about the strategic plan. One is whether there's any objection to moving the special meeting to the afternoon. We had planned on it being at 8:30 in the morning, the way the last one was. But I wanted to hear from the board if there's any objections to moving it to 1 o'clock. I have a state legislative committee meeting that morning with Aqua.
Good for me.
I'm fine. I'm fine.
Good for me too.
Okay, so we'll get the agenda and the agenda packet out this week, and we'll set it for 1 o'clock next Friday. The other question we had for the board is whether we want to. Last time we did the board workshop, I think we were really pleased with the result, but I think it would be even better in person. We did that one online, and so whether or not the board was comfortable with that meeting being in person with, it would probably be, a couple of the consultant team, maybe a couple of staff in addition to the board in the boardroom. So we'd still keep the numbers low, masks and social distance, and then have other people be able to access through this online medium. But wanted to check with the board and see if they're comfortable with the consultants being here in person and having that meeting mostly in person.
I'm okay with that.
I'm fine. I'm all right.
I'm good with that too.
Okay, and we'll wait to hear back from GEI on that. They have some rules they have to follow to make sure that they can be here, but I think it would be better for this type of a meeting to try to do it in person to the extent we can, and we'll still have this though available for public and other staff to participate. We had a legal affairs committee meeting last week, and one of the things that came out of it was an appreciation for Congressman McClintock's active support for our request for funding for the Copper Cove wastewater treatment plant Section 219 funding that I've talked to the board about a lot over the last few years. It's been a long effort. The quick update on that is unfortunately the project was left out of the Army Corps work plan for the 2021 fiscal year, and it was in part because the Trump administration had sort of rushed at the end of their time to get the work plan done, and they filed it just before the transition took place, and so there was some gaps in the normal process. And so apparently, though, the good news is, a silver lining here is the Corps thinks it was a mistake that our project was left off, and they're very supportive of the project. They think that it has merit and should be funded under the Section 219 program. So, and Congressman McClintock stepped up and called the acting assistant secretary of the Army for Civil Works to support the project. And we got some really positive feedback from the Army Corps as a result of that. He sent this follow-up letter that Rebecca has put up on the screen on his own initiative, urging the Army Corps to approve to fund our project. And so we felt like it was appropriate to show our appreciation to Congressman McClintock. I sent his staff an email last week expressing our gratitude for their role. And then we wanted to bring to the board a letter thanking the congressman, and if the board is comfortable with it, having each of the board members sign, and we'll deliver that to him. And that was, I think, a recommendation from the Legal Affairs Committee, but I'll have, if President Davidson or Director Ratterman, if you wanted to confirm that for me.
Yeah, that's what we decided. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so I will,
So that
we'll work on
congratulations.
getting signatures from the board members, and we'll get this off to Congressman McClintock. Couple other quick updates. The Mueller AMI project, the remote read meter project, is moving forward. The AMI infrastructure is being installed currently. We put in 12 meters down in Wallace as sort of a trial run for the technology that we'll be working with over the next few months before we start rolling it out on a broader scale. We anticipate probably the end of April starting to ramp up the actual installation of the meters, and we'll be doing quite a bit of public outreach in advance of that to let the public know what all the activity is and the benefits of the project. So wanted to just keep the board informed on that because it will be something we need to do a lot of public outreach around. So we'll keep you posted. Speaking of public outreach, several of us participated in the Ebbets Pass Property Owners Coalition meeting, the EPOC, we call it, last week. And a big part, it's a great group, it's a great way to get a lot of information out to our largest service area. And we have a notice going out of high level of disinfectant byproducts in the water that was taken from one sample site. So we have to send out a notice to every customer in that service area, and to report out the notice of violation and to address any public health concerns and notify the public of what we're doing about it. So those notices are being sent out this week, but we wanted to get out in front of it, and to the extent we can, we let the EPOC group know, and we'll be having a town hall in case anyone has questions about the impacts of that. And Jessica's done a great job in working with Damon on preparing materials that we think are easy to understand and can convey clearly to people that there's no risk to public health at all. It's just a notice of violation, and the water board requires us to send these notices out. But wanted to let the board know in case you're hearing from your constituents about it, any concerns. There's no risk to public health. We're addressing the issue, and expect that it won't happen again, hopefully. But we will be doing some more outreach on that front to make sure people are comfortable with our response. Quick COVID update. Nothing really changed at the district over the last few weeks. The one thing I will pass along from the public health team is there's still a relatively high rate of infection. It's definitely come down in the last few weeks. The stay-at-home order has been lifted, but we're still in the purple tier. And the message that I got from public health this morning was that they really want to encourage people to get tested, because the only way that we will be able to go from a purple tier to a less restrictive tier is if we have a lower rate of positive test results. And right now, we're just not enough people are getting tested. They have opened up more testing sites in different parts of the county, or they're doing it kind of on a rolling basis. So you can check the Calaveras OES website or the Calaveras Public Health website for testing site locations. And they're encouraging people, even if you don't think you've been exposed, they're encouraging people to go get tested so that we can show that the numbers are coming down and potentially move to a less restrictive tier.
Michael?
Yes.
Michael, do they want you to test to see if you have it now or if you have had it?
I don't think so the test will tell you if you have it now, and
Okay.
it but only, it won't tell you going back very far. If you had it before and you're already over it, it wouldn't show up in the test.
Okay, so the county just wants everybody to test to see if they have it now, not if
Yeah, they
have
want to try to get
Okay.
a better idea of how many people are walking around with it. Because we know a lot of people who have it are asymptomatic. And so unless we get enough people that are getting tested, they don't have a clear idea of what the actual status is. So they're just trying to encourage more and more people to get tested. They said at their peak, at one point there was, I think, over 200 people a day getting tested in Calaveras County, and right now it's like 20. So they're really trying to encourage more people to get tested, even if you don't think you've been exposed. So quick update on there's been a couple of vacancies, some turnover among the Region 3. Aqua Region 3 is the region that we're in, and the Region 3 board has had some turnover on it. And I've been on that board for quite some time. It's a fantastic experience for me because there's really good people that have been on that board, and it's become a really good way to share information and across different agencies and learn from each other about how, especially COVID was a great example of, how we were in frequent contact with each other, learning about how, different agencies were responding in different ways, and having those discussions. And it's just a great resource for that reason. And for that reason, I'm encouraging and recruiting Joel to apply. There'll be a call for candidates coming out soon, and I'm hoping that he's expressed interest, and I'm hoping that he will be soon elected or appointed to the Region 3 board. And one of the people that moved on from that is Shannon Catula from South Tahoe Public Utilities District, who some of you I'm sure know from Aqua events. He's been a great resource for me, someone that I'm going to miss. But I've been appointed to take his spot as the vice chair for Region 3. So there's that change, and then hoping that we fill the other vacancies. And there should be some good programs from Region 3 coming out in the next year. I think that was all I have for now, unless there's any questions for me.
I have,
Excuse
Oh,
me.
sorry, I do have one more thing, but go ahead. Questions?
All right, this is Russ. Let me jump in here. You said that you were recruiting someone. I didn't get the name to apply for that.
Yeah, you might not recognize the name. Joel Metzger is his name.
Oh, okay. Yes. Good.
It's been gone a long time. It's okay if you forgot about him already.
Yeah. I thought you said Huel. I couldn't figure out.
No, I think Joel would be great for the Region 3 board, and I think it would be great for him to have that same experience I've had with that group of people, helping each other out. So I'm hopeful that he will apply.
Yeah. Perhaps you'll remember that I was going to go on that board, but we hired you instead.
I do recall, and I am still very grateful for you giving me that opportunity. And then real quick, just speaking of Joel, pretty significant development at Utica. The REMAP program has finally been reopened after at least 3 or 4 painful long years of litigation and red tape. It didn't get it. Unfortunately, the PUC made changes to it that weakened the program, made it worse than it was before, which I don't think they needed to do. And we were involved in advocating on that behalf, and they made some changes that I think were really unfortunate. But having said that, for a project like the Murphy's Powerhouse, it's still the best thing available. to that for that kind of a project. I don't think they lowered the price that they're going to get from where it was before, and even at the price point it was at before, there wasn't any new hydro projects being developed under REMAT, or not many at least. So that it won't inspire any new development, I don't think, but it will be good for projects like the Murphy's Powerhouse that are just recontracting for an existing powerhouse, and it'll be it'll be an increase in revenue from what they had before. So the program was reopened. We had prepared for that a long time ago at Utica, and been working with Joel to make sure he was up to speed on that. And to Joel's credit, he hit submit. I had him take a screenshot of it for me. He hit submit on the application. The program opened at 9 a.m. I think it was last Wednesday or Thursday. And he hit submit at 9 a.m. and 7 seconds. So they still have a few months to work through the contracting process. But assuming they're going to be able to secure the contract in the near future, it's a huge boost in revenue for them and a big win for Joel. So really happy for Utica. And he's also managed to get through the application process for CalPERS pension for their staff, or not through it yet, but at least they got approved as far as the financial stress test that they put you under. And so they'll still be working on that contract, and still subject to approval of the Utica board. But that was, I think, another significant step for them. So good progress from Joel at Utica. In addition to a new website and a Facebook presence, he's been doing a lot of public outreach as well. So good stuff coming from Utica.
Anything else about Calaveras County Water District?
No, that's it for me, unless there's questions.
Any other questions for Michael?
Oh, Michael, who is the chair of Region 3?
Josh Alpine
Aqua?
is a director at Placer County Water Agency, and he's been the chair
For
of that board.
Several years now.
He's been, as long as I've been on that board, I think
Yeah.
5 years now, he's been the chair.
Okay, let's leave him there.
He's great.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I enjoy working with Josh.
Uh-huh.
Anything else to Michael? Okay, we'll move on to board reports, information, future agenda items. Director Underhill?
Oh, yes. Well, as you know, we were inundated. We got, maybe between 4 or 5 feet of snow up here, and we're still looking at least 3. So it's lots of snow, and it's still very cold up here. Jeff, I don't think you'll be able to get to your cabin forever.
Yeah, no, probably May or June. You'd be surprised.
Okay, and I picked up something that was really kind of interesting on Damon's report. He talked about a new gas station up here in Arnold. And I talked with Michael, and it's not a new gas station. It's just the Sierra gas station that's changing their name to Cruisers. And we've heard of Cruisers before, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, it's more than a
anyway,
name
everything's
change.
pretty-
It's
Oh,
they're
okay.
they're rebuilding the whole thing, so it's definitely more than a name change. Is why they had to apply for updated service from us. Should be some
Okay.
significant construction there at the quick serve in the near in the near future.
Okay, so the Ebbets Pass is still building, so that's great. That's it for me.
All right, Director Rademan?
Just one thing, we have a camera meeting next Wednesday. And that's it.
Director Thomas?
Nothing to report.
Director Cicada?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that last month I attended the IRWM meeting on the 20th, and also attended the Mountain Counties Funding Area Committee meeting. We haven't had a meeting for quite some time. So that was nice. We discussed the technical assistance programs and the one DAC project that we have with the TSAND and the MAC IRWMs. That was it.
Okay, I have nothing to report. So we'll move on to next board meeting, Friday, February 19th. And we've changed that date to what time? Or the time to what?
1
1
p.m.
o'clock.
Say it again?
1 p.m.
1 p.m., okay. And then Wednesday, February 24th at 1 p.m. as well. Okay, we're going to adjourn into closed session. 9A, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation. 9B, government code 54957, agency negotiations, general manager Michael Minkler. So we will, unless there's any public comment regarding our closed session agenda, we will adjourn into closed session.
Are we supposed to stay on this line or is there a phone number to call in?
You can hang on.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.